Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazal Ministries podcast.
Who puts the function in your dysfunctional? Well, hello, friends. We hope to answer that question today on another episode of Systematic Geekology. We are your priest to the geeks, and this is a part of our special bonus series, bingeable shows, Flicks Fridays. We're coming to you hot and live here on Friday in your earbuds, and we're talking about those shows that we love to binge on our streaming services, specifically Netflix. And so all of our hosts have gathered a list of things that we love to binge or things we loved to binge in the past. And today, up next, is the Umbrella Academy. Man, and I have a lot of thoughts about this particular series, and here with me, someone that I would be on a superhero team, no matter how dysfunctional it could be. I would choose him as a part of my superhero team. He may be number 13 out there, but I think he's number 1 in your heart, and it's Evan. Evan, how are you doing today, buddy?
Hey, Will, I'm doing good, man. Thanks. The same. I would be a part of your instead of the Sparrow Academy, you'll be my Ben.
All right. I would be your Ben If you don't know what we're referring to, we're going to get into that when it comes to whether it's the Umbrella Academy or the Sparrow Academy. Oh, man. So we're going to talk about the Umbrella Academy. And before it was a hit Netflix series that gave 4 seasons of it, it was a comic book from Dark Horse Comics. It was a single issue comics that came out every month by Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba, and Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance. It debuted at Dark Horse Comics in 2007, and then it became a graphic novel, even won an Eisner, which is the Oscars for comics. And then it back in the day, back in the before times when things like Walking Dead went from comics to your TV screen, and people were like, oh man, look how much money that's making. Maybe we can take these comic books and not just make movies out of them, but we can make streaming episode series out of it. So everybody was pouncing on everything. So it became a Netflix series in 2019. It was the most viewed on Netflix in 2020. I don't know if you remember what happened in 2020, but yeah, there were some things that kept us inside and did that. And I have a little personal connection to this because Gerard Way came to North Carolina Comic-Con in 2018, right at the height of the popularity of Umbrella Academy, and people, of course, were fanboying and fangirling over his My Chemical Romance fame. And there was rumors. There were rumors. See what I did there? There was a rumor that this show would become a Netflix series, and people were really excited about it. So that was kind of the hype around that Comic-Con, and him on panels, and getting to meet him was pretty cool. We'll share more about his backstory here in a little bit. But Evan, what's your background with this story and the characters in Umbrella Academy? Did you see Netflix series first? Did you read the comic first? Did you do both? Did you do either? I'm curious. Share with me.
Sure. Yeah. I knew about the comic probably 2010, 11. I had seen it because I was interested in, because of the whole trivia about Gerard Way doing it. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And the artwork looked very impressive. I really liked it, but I never read it. So then you fast forward to the pandemic, and this was one of the shows that we binged while we were locked up.
Yeah.
So I think there were 2 seasons out, or maybe the second season was about to drop or something. But we saw like the first season in like a night and a half. We were like, oh wow, yeah,
Cool.
I love the whole family part of it. Very much impressed me with the whole sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I could totally see how that was a comic booky. So
yeah. So have you ever gone back and seen the comic? You haven't read the comic, but you've watched the series all the way through, all 4 seasons.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I saw the whole series. Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely read the comic first, the graphic novel first, and loved it. So when it came out, I was very, very excited about it. And I'll confess that I never finished the series. It was, it got real convoluted for me. They in the same way with the comic, like I love the first 2 graphic novels of Umbrella Academy, but then as it started going, Gerard Way is very creative. He's very artsy. He's very poetic. You can hear that in his music. He's a very big fan of like Grant Morrison and Alan Moore and all those things. And even with his graphic novels and the comics, it got really, I don't know, convoluted is I think too degrading. I think it just got complicated and too artsy, and it just didn't stick with my personal attention and the way I read comics and art. Sure. And I felt like the TV series kind of did the same for me. But I love that first and second season. I love the first 2 volumes of the graphic novel, and was glad to see that it made up there. And so yeah, a little about Gerard Way. Like he so his story. He shared this at the panel at North Carolina Comic Con. He was a kid that grew up in the Northeast New Jersey and is a big fan of comic books and superheroes and X-Men and all that stuff, and went to New York to go to art school and wanted to create comics, and was a writer for like cartoons on the Cartoon Network in New York City and things. And then 9/11 happened, and when 9/11 happened and he experienced that in New York, he was like, I don't know if Joshua wants to put a beep in this, but he was like, beep this. I'm going to go out and tour with a band and music, and just got real angsty and existential and said, nope, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I feel like we got to, I didn't like the way the state of the world was happening. So he created a goth band and sang about it and went on tour. But while he was on tour and while he was on his tour bus, he would continue to write scripts and doodle and draw and do sketches and concept art. And out of that birthed Umbrella Academy. And so he pitched it to Dark Horse Comics. They loved it. And of course, having a big time rock star as an author on one of your comics isn't too shabby either. So made it into the comics, single comics, and the covers are awesome. The art I think is great. And then eventually, of course, Netflix was like, let's scoop up some TV shows and some content here. And that's how it was made into a TV show. So yeah, Evan, why don't you, what is the summary of the plot? And I think it's similar. I think they did a good job with the graphic novel and the TV show. There's some differences there, but the characters and their power sets and this dysfunctional superhero family that was adopted, share a little bit about kind of the plot line of kind of season 1 and how this adopted family of superheroes came together.
Sure. Yeah. The season 1 was very loaded with exposition, but in a good way. And it explained their powers on these, like, there's a handful of children that were born on the same day. And they all seem to have these quirky powers, or no, they did not have any labor. They were just boom. They just showed up. They were just born that day. So that was a very a particular event, of course. And then this gentleman, a very much I don't know how you would call him, but Hargreaves. He decided to come and collect all the kids and to raise them because they're so unique, and they all have their unique powers. and the season 1 picks up after the death of one of the characters of one of the children when they were like in their probably late teens, 20s, and how that brings them all back together because they were all separated for a time, and that brings them back to their childhood home, to their Pongo, their
Pongo,
the ape, the monkey caretaker, and their nanny that was a robot. So there's your sci-fi cool element there, and then you find out they're very much a dysfunctional family. They all have different powers, and with that, they all have their little quirks, and they bother each other. And some of them find the other bothersome, or there's a lot of bickering, or there's some friendships, and there's a hierarchy, like who is the favorite, and the show kind of gets into a plot where they have to save the world because it seems like there's an apocalypse coming, and they all have powers, and they need to use their powers to save the world.
Yeah. If you like, superhero teams, Avengers, X-Men, Justice League, this is kind of a dysfunctional family of those kinds of things. Sir Reginald Hargraves, on the day when 43 women simultaneously gave birth, at this kind of like freak moment, he tried to collect all these kids up and only got 7 of them. And 6 are heroes. He holds Vanya, I guess that's how you say her name, Vanya, back and tells her she's not special. She doesn't have any powers, but eventually, she writes an all-tell book kind of disclosing the family secrets, but her power set emerges out of those things. And I think you get into this, like, as you said, the family aspect of it. They're all adopted. So they have this kind of like, definitely daddy issues, family issues, who am I, identity issues, but then among themselves and their relationships with each other, how they relate to each other, and even, how do they love each other? How do they not love each other? How are they annoyed by each other? And the first season is 10 episodes. The second season is 10 episodes. Even the third season is 10 episodes. They get to the final season 4, there's 6, but they really take their time kind of diving into each character and what they're wrestling with and who they are and all those kinds of things. I'm going to read off some characters here, and Evan, you share which one is your favorite. What's your favorite power set? So we have number 1, Space Boy, Luther. Number 2, the Kraken, Diego. You have number 3, Rumor, Allison. You have number 4, Seance, Klaus. And then you have number 5, the Tom Hopper 10-year-old boy who was displaced from time, aged 60 years, and then came back into a 10-year-old body. So he's 10 or a young teenager, but has the mindset of like a 65-year-old or 70-year-old. Yeah. Then you have Vanya, who, so maybe doesn't have any powers, or does she? And then you have number 6, Ben, who, you really don't know him because he died before they came back together as this reunion. And as Evan said, the dad died, Hargrave, who pulled them all together as a superhero team as kids, died. And so that's what brings this family back together. And they reflect on their lives. They reflect on their dad. They reflect on what kind of house they were raised in, all the time where there's this threat of an imminent apocalypse that's coming down the road that Number 5, the Time Hopper, knows about because he's been there, he's experienced it and come back. And so there's that kind of drama. Out of those characters, Evan, who do you connect with, or what are some of your favorite power sets? What do you, who's your favorite out of this group?
I like there's 3 of them. Number 1, because you don't really know his powers. He's just kind of strong like an ape, but he's quirky too. He makes his way through life just and
he's Space Boy, right? He's just he's spacey.
Yeah. But yet he's the quote unquote the leader of the group, and so I thought that was funny. But Who was the one with the knives?
That's Diego, the Kraken.
Diego. He was cool. I like how his arc throughout the season was very mature. He matured a lot, and but my favorite was Klaus. Klaus has the powers of kind of being immortal. That he could speak to the dead, and then you find out that when he dies, there are certain ways that he can come back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, what do you do like when your brother sends you back in time 60 years and into a life that you'd have no idea? It's like, I thought that was interesting. So
yeah, Klaus is really he's the most kind of animated and energetic and all over the place, and he wrestles with addiction. I mean, he's wrestling with his power, seeing the dead. It really goes hard into like, he's in rehab, he's got drugs. You want to see him pull through and get a healthy lifestyle, but as the seasons roll out, you see some heartbreak and grief when it comes to who he falls in love with, and people that die, and what he's doing with, and how he's self-medicating through this. And so his heartbreak, he's comical, he's comedy relief, but he is also kind of heartbreaking to see.
Tragic.
Cautionary tale to say, like, maybe we shouldn't self-medicate like that. I have to say that as far as the powers, I love all those characters too, and I like all of them, but I think the coolest power set is Rumor. Because basically her power set is the power of suggestion. We just had an episode. I talked about the Purple Man with Kilgrave with Joshua and Nick, but Rumor has the power of suggestion. When she says, "I heard a rumor," and whatever she says next, you have to do or is going to happen. So she could whisper in your ear, "I heard a rumor that you're going to hop on one leg for the next 3 days, and that's what you're going to do." And so this whole like, "I heard a rumor," mind control is just is so creative and so good. I've never seen that in comics before, and so whenever she used that, and so in the storyline and in the comics, like, how do you take Rumor out? You take her voice out, you cut her throat, you do whatever to kind of dismantle her that way. So and then they all have their backstories. When they broke up the team, they went off and did their own thing and had their own lifestyles. And Space Boy went to the moon and hung out for a while. Rumor became like a pop star. In Hollywood, Vanya wrote a book, all-tale book about this family because of what's going on. But yeah, they're brought back together, had this podcast. Season 1, wrapped up with them stopping an apocalypse. Spoiler, there's 4 seasons, so they don't all die in season 1. But then after season 1, you hop into season 2, 10 episodes, and they go back in time to 1960s Dallas. Evan, what do you think about season 2? I did get through season 2.
Yeah, season 2 was great in the fact of, like, if you like history and stuff like that, but it also continued the plot and the storyline from season 1 of a TVA of sorts. Basically, they're like this agency that modifies and controls the timelines,
right?
And we find out that there are these suitcases that can help you do the time traveling, and it's kind of like the MacGuffin of the first couple seasons, and the way that they intertwined in season 2, all the different characters spread out during like a 4 or 5 year period, I think it was.
Yeah,
like from like 1960 to 1965, something like that, and they all had to play a part in the assassination for JFK. Was it
right? Yep.
And they had to stop that, and there was a lot of that, and there was a lot of the time travel that number 5 came in handy with. So
yeah, you have these kind of displaced time and alternate timelines, and Evan, I don't know if you've seen the Loki series on Disney Plus, the Time Variant the Umbrella Academy were there first before they did this sacred timeline thing, because you have these time cops, you have these time assassins. They're trying to create, the Umbrella Academy, at least number 5, is messing with the timeline, and so they have these like timekeepers who are coming back to help to assassinate them or to keep them from doing it. So I really feel like this kind of paved the way, or Marvel kind of copied. When it comes to time travel, everybody's copying each other when it comes to time travel, alternate timelines, or multiverse stuff, and it was inevitable that Marvel was going to do that. But I really feel like the Umbrella Academy, that was the most fascinating part for me, were these agents who would come to try and stop alternate timelines from happening. And we have Mary J. Blige, R&B. Mary J. Blige shows up as a time assassin. And she's so good. When she popped up in this, I was like, what? Is that Mary J. Blige? And then Cindy and I were both like, yeah, that's Mary J. Blige. And she does great. She's a great actor. She's a great part of this, season 1 and season 2, when it comes to that. So yeah, they play around. I mean, you think of like 1960s, and you think of like where the nation was at that time. It was a simpler time, but also it was really hard, especially for minorities. And you had JFK assassination. You had like the threat of nuclear war. Yeah. So again, season 2 ramps up this apocalyptic threat in season 2 as well, with season 1, and I did get through all of season 2. Then you hop into season 3, and you have that, like, their actions establish a new timeline. So they return back to 2019, and where they discover that Hargraves has created another superhero group called the Sparrow Academy. Call back to Evan earlier in this episode, not the Umbrella Academy, but the Sparrow Academy, and you have to kind of reset their universe in season 3. I will confess that it is this time that I bowed out. It either got a little convoluted, or I got busy, and I just didn't finish this series. In the same way with the comics, like I got the first 2 volumes. I got some of those things, but it just got a little confusing, a little convoluted for me. So I was like, nope. I'm moving on to other things. But in terms of season 3, how'd that wrap up for you, Evan?
Like you said, it's very convoluted. It was a blur. I don't remember too much of it, but I remember it was the Sparrow Academy, and there was a hotel, and there was another apocalypse, but there was a lot of dramatic moments, very heavy, dark moments, very much like it was like the Empire Strikes Back of the series. It was every character went through something very hard, and we found out there was some shady deals with some of the family members that were very selfish, and that caused a lot of tension in the group, and resulted in the loss of one of the characters. Ooh. Oh, well, 2 of them. Two of the characters. They both died, and they were that part was the emotion was very high, but also the convolutedness, the plot was very high too. I was like, I'm scratching my head trying to follow it. I'm like, oh, this kind of hurts my head. Yeah. Because you're not wrong. Like, it got very thick there for a second, and it never lost me because I was invested with the characters. I just wanted to know what was going to happen to them. So I was able to stick it out, me and my wife, with some help from the YouTube channels where they do like
the breakdowns,
the recaps and stuff. Yeah. That helped. But
did they lose their powers in season 3 too? Was that something that happened
at the end? Yes. At the end, they rescued everybody. They all had a happy moment. There was a wedding, and super funniness in the wedding. There was a lot of drama, but they all came together, and then boom. I think they get sent back in time, and when they get back in time, they realize that they don't have their powers anymore.
Gotcha.
And every character takes that differently. Like, some are relieved, some are frustrated, some are trying to get it back. Yeah. So
Yeah.
someday you just kind of move on with it. Yeah.
That's interesting
And
that
then
like, yeah,
start
you have
season four.
the heaviness of the responsibility that comes with superpowers. Like, oh, we'd love to have superpowers, but
Yeah.
the responsibility that comes with it. And then to be relieved when that's taken away, you're like, wow, the fresh breath of that. And I do think this series does go deep into characters and whether it's childhood trauma or the identity, any superhero comics, or TV shows, hopefully, can go into that a little bit in terms of how they see themselves and how others perceive them, and then the relationships that they're a part of, what their choices they make a difference on their relationships that are around them, and try and take care of each other and those kinds of things. I think that's the gift of the show, and they do a really good job of that. And then there's season 4, 6 episodes. I think they, as I was reading up, that they reconnect to stop the cleanse, and they regain their powers, and they save the timeline. And, but then in terms of the question of, would the world be better without them around, wiping out their existence is kind of the big question when it comes to season 4. And, not sure if the 6 episodes were just that's all they got, or they are longer episodes, but you finished it. Did it stick the landing there at the end? Is it worth it to stick it all the way through to the end?
I think it very much did stick the landing. It was up there in maybe my top 10 of like series
nice
finales. I was just like, wow. They set up kind of their gimmick again. It's the end of the world, all that again.
Yeah.
But yet it still worked.
Yeah.
It still worked. And they brought back Ben, and they had these, they were even able to bring in a whole cast of characters, but still feel like they all had a point to the story.
Nice.
And twists and turns, and in the like there's stuff that you just, you don't do to family. There's a bunch of things, that if you love your family, you just don't do these things. But those things were done. There were lines crossed, and there were big divisions with a couple of the family members, and the way they dealt with that domestic interactions, and with the backdrop of the world's ending again because we are here, we are the ones causing it pretty much. That was fascinating. That made the time blow by fast. I think they were longer episodes. We split it up over like 2 or 3 nights. But it was worth it.
Nice.
Everyone had their beats, and my interpretation of it, like you said, like, look, is the world better without them? I saw it as kind of similar to what Loki ended up doing, where they had to remove themselves from the world, like in the sense of they don't need to be controlling everything. They don't need to save the day every time.
Right.
They just need to be who they are with each other, and that's what's important. And they are still, they might be gone, quote unquote, but they're still there as a force in the world. And that's all that matters, is as long as you're together and you are moving the world forward, then I think that's how that ended. And I think it was very satisfying. They all came to that realization, and they all treated it differently. Some were excited, some weren't, and there was a monster. Like there were 2 characters, Ben and some other character, that had a relationship to them from season 1, but that was the plot twist that we didn't see coming. They fused together and they make this this abomination character almost. It was very visceral. Like I almost had to look between my fingers because it was just so gross and like grotesque and very violent. And they had to fight the monster. yeah,
Nice.
I think it was a great season. Great season.
Yeah, and if every season has like the threat of apocalypse every end, you're kind of like, how can they keep ramping up the intensity?
And they do it.
But they do,
yeah.
you know. And so hearing you talk about season 4, that's alluring me to go back and finish it, kind of complete it. I am a completist when it comes to like comics and shows and things, so maybe I'll go back and do that. So. Yeah, what a good series. And I part of our final question here as we kind of wrap up is think about if you were to binge a show after this one, what would it be? And my initial reaction would be like, I don't want to binge a show. I just want to go and read this graphic novel. I think Apocalypse Suite, The Umbrella Academy, the first run, volume 1 is so good. The art is good. The writing is good. It's quippy. It's smart. I've just never read a superhero comic like that before, and so I can't recommend that graphic novel enough. In terms of, if you like graphic novels, if you like that way of storytelling, man, go get it. You could probably find it somewhere under $20 somewhere, or rent it from the library. Cool. It is absolutely fantastic. So yeah. So Evan, I'm just going to assume you're going to say that, like, if we're going to recommend the show or rank the show, you're going to recommend it and you're going to rank it pretty high for our friends out there.
I am going to rank it pretty high. It was a surprise. Like, I did not expect to be so invested in the characters, and I was very satisfied with how they closed it, and they didn't let it go for 20 seasons. They just they closed it with a bow, and now you can watch it whenever.
Nice. Yeah, so I definitely recommend season 1. I recommend reading the graphic novel before, after, however you read books, or if you read books before the movie or after the movie, if you like the movie. Mm-hmm. Some people have those kinds of ways of doing things. Yeah. Read the graphic novel, watch first season, and then I'll take Evan's lead and keep going this through, and maybe I'll go check out that final season here pretty soon. Cool. Lots of fun. All right. So yeah, if you were to binge a show after this one, where do you hop into next? I guess I don't know if it's just for Netflix or not, but if you're just going to binge a show after this one, where are you going to binge? What's on the list?
Well, I'm going to recommend the show that we literally did watch during the pandemic, right after we finished the first season, was a Star series that premieres on Netflix also, but it is the time traveling love story of the show Outlander.
Oh, nice.
It's
okay,
man. It's a drama. It's very much your soapy drama. Very.
I've heard good things.
50 Shades of Grey, but it has it's very smart time travel. It's very smart, like very top tier.
I've heard good things about Outlander, and people talk about it, but never dived in. So okay, you got me. You got me there.
We didn't finish it, but we have like one more season left.
Nice.
So
cool. Yeah, if I'm going to recommend something on Netflix to binge, I would say I'm gonna hop right over and watch the TV show Lost again, because it's back on Netflix, and I'm gonna watch it all the way through. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. And then Beef. I don't know if you've seen Beef. It's about
I saw the first episode.
Yeah, they get a kind of road rage incident, and then it all devolves from there. Like it's a crazy show, but I really loved it. So Beef on Netflix. I tend to have road rage, especially those who drive too slow in the left-hand lane. Pastor Will, yes, he loses his temper in traffic. For some reason, there's something that happens there with me. I'm such a wimp when it comes to like picking fights in the real world. I would probably run scared from any fight, but something about traffic, I feel like I'm emboldened. It's really bad. So the TV show Beef on Netflix was definitely a cautionary tale. I was like, maybe I should watch my actions and check myself before I wreck myself. Lots of fun, y'all.
Hey-o.
Evan, always fun hanging and geeking out with you, man, and our friends out there. support the show. If you could hop over Patreon and give a couple bucks so that we can all hang out with each other and keep the lights on. There's some Comic-Cons coming down the road in North Carolina and other places, and we would love to go, and your support helps all those. Like, review, do all those things that podcasters would love for you to do, because we appreciate you. We can't do it without you. And as always, y'all, share the faith, share the geek.
Peace.
Here at Systematic Ecology, we believe in a few things. We believe that there is freedom in Christ to like what you like. We believe that Christian nationalism is a heresy. And probably most important that I'm going to talk about today, at least, is that we believe the best place to spend your extra cash is on the Systematic Ecology merch store. That's right. This is a shameless shill for our own products. We go through Creator Spring, and we have a few great products on there. Me personally, I'm a big like black shirt kind of guy, muted colors. But there's nothing better to like throw a little something extra on there with like a black baseball cap, the dad hat with the Systematic Ecology logo on it. That's a classic. I just really think if you got a couple, $30 extra, that's for us.
Hello, Systematic Ecology listeners. This is Kevin here. Just want to give a brief ad for some of the other podcasts in our Anazao podcast network. First of all, off is Let Nothing Move You by Christian Ashley, in which Christian goes through the Bible one chapter at a time and gives his thoughts there. There is also the Bible After Hours, which is a more progressive take on the Bible that tries to challenge the status quo with satire and looks at theology. The host uses the pseudonym The Foul-Mouthed Preacher. And as a bonus, Joshua Knoll does the voices for this one. So definitely check that one out. And also, And We'll Laugh About That Later is the newest podcast that our own Will Rose is starting, where he will interview friends about a story they had that wasn't funny at the time, but that they laugh about now. So definitely check out these shows and subscribe to us wherever you get your pods. Thank you very much.